In this example, let's start with the Introduction to SolidWorks tutorial. And so I'll go through and do what it says. So it says to create a new file, and we could set the units for that file. I'm just going to go ahead and say OK, and if I come down here, I see that my units are on a custom metric setting. Let's go to the options, and I will go to the document properties, and on the units tab, so I have millimeters, grams, seconds, and for the standard I'm going to use ANSI standard. Alright, then I'll draw a circle, and so it says to create an extruded boss base. So whenever it says a boss or base, it's adding material to the part. So I'm going to go to the top plane, and I'll start a new sketch, and then I'll sketch this circle, and I constrain it to the origin, and then I'll add a dimension to this circle. And so I'll add a dimension, and I'm going to put in, say, 128. Now the tutorial said to change this to ANSI, but this is showing ISO style dimension, but whatever. Now let's say I want to change that dimension though later on. If I just double click on that, and let's say I change that to 200, it changes the size of my circle, and so the dimensions drive the geometry. I will then hit the confirmation corner to accept that, and then with this sketch highlighted, so we see that it's highlighted over here, I'll do extrude, and I'm going to extrude that a distance of 7 millimeters. Now if I decide I want that to be 10 millimeters, I'll right click and I'll say edit feature, and I would change that to whatever size I want. If I decide I want to change the diameter, I would expand this, right click, edit sketch, and change, double click on that diameter, change that to whatever diameter I want. So I can change the size of the geometry after the fact. Then I'll save the part, and let's call this first tutorial, or whatever it says to save it as. And then I'm going to go to the top view. Now we can go to the top view up here, or we can hit the space bar and click on this view to go to the top view. So several ways of doing the top view. I will then click on this face, and I'll do a new sketch on that face, and I'll draw a circle here, and I'll dimension that circle a diameter of, let's see what the diameter 75, and then I will go to the next, and I'm going to do offset, and I'll select this circle, and I'm going to offset that a distance of 5, and I'll tell it to add a dimension when it does that offset. Okay, so there's my offset distance 5. I'll then extrude that, and so I'm going to rotate around. If I hold the mouse wheel down, and I can rotate this around where I can see this, and or we could hit here to show it, or there's a list of views here that you can select. Alright, so then I'm going to do extrude again. So I'll go to the features, I'll do extrude, and I'm going to set that distance to 12, and I want that to be merged or combined with the previous extrusion. Alright, then I'll go to the next step, and see how my object kind of looks faceted here. So I'm going to go back to options, and on the document properties I'll go to the image quality, and I'm going to drag this image quality up here so that it looks more rounded rather than faceted. And then I will click on this face to do a new sketch, and I'll draw another circle, and I'll draw that right here. I will dimension that circle, and I'll dimension that a diameter of 25. And I accidentally left the sketch, so I need to go back and edit my sketch. So I'll right click, I'll say edit sketch, and I'll select that dimension, double click on that dimension, or you can come over here and type in 25 over here. Alright, then the next step, it says to do a and these instructions don't appear to be very good. Let me go back and look at what the previous instructions said. Actually, I'm not used to doing these tutorials, and I've never done them, so I don't know the quality. Cut a hole through the center of the part. Exit sketch, which I'll do that, and then in the property manager, they never tell you to. Now it misses a whole entire step here. So let's do extrude cut. Actually, highlight that sketch first. Highlight that sketch, and then do an extrude cut. And we'll tell it to go through all, and we'll say OK to that. So that cut that hole through there. I can see how doing these tutorials could be kind of painful if you're not familiar with the software, which is kind of bad because this is getting started tutorial. And then a 2mm fillet on this face and this face. So I'll do a fillet, and I'll select this entire face. That'll put a fillet here and a fillet there. And I'll select this side face right there. That'll put a fillet here and a fillet here. I'm going to turn on full preview, and I'll do a radius of 2mm, and hit the tab key, and it previews those fillets. I'll say OK to those fillets. Let's change this to a different color. Maybe it will be easier to see on this screen. And so I'm going to go to the top node, and I'm going to click on this appearance beach ball, and I'll change this color to some other color. Ooh, that's hard to see. I'm trying to find a color that'll be easier to see on my screen. I don't have real view graphics on my computer, which is something that might make that a little bit easier to see. Alright, then let's see, the next step. I want you to create a line up, something like that. So I'm going to hit the space bar. I'll go to the top view now. I actually might want to do that from the standard views, and I'll draw a line then. So I'm going to start a sketch, and to see where it wants to it says select the top face to do that sketch, and I'll draw a line, and it says to draw a center line, so I'll click on this down arrow and I'll do a center line, and actually my direction arrow is going this way, so I'm going to click here and I'll hold down the Alt key, and then I can use the left or right arrow keys to move that, and it just didn't move that arrow. Well, I was trying to make this easier, but I just never paid attention to that. It's not going to matter. And let's now if it didn't automatically put a vertical constraint on there, if I click on it, I might have to add a vertical, but it's on there, so I'm okay with that. Actually, let's see what the last step was. I need to read these. It says 45 millimeters long, so I'll dimension this as 45. And I'm having trouble with my dimension command here. Of course, as soon as I start recording a video, that's when I'm having all kinds of trouble, and I don't know why. There we go. And let's put in 45 for that. Alright, and again, if I wanted to change that dimension, if I select that dimension, I could change it to whatever. Alright, then we'll, on the sketch tab, we'll do a circle at the end of this line, and the diameter of that circle is 27, and actually I see the dimension is now 35, so we'll change that as well. So I'll dimension this. Oops, I'm in the circle command. I'll do dimension, and I'll dimension this as 27. And I'm going to change this one to 35. Okay. And so I want to then extrude that a distance of 30. So I'll go to the Features tab, and I'm either in Sketch when I go to the Features tab, or if I click OK to make sure that sketch is highlighted. I'm going to make a mistake here, so I don't have the sketch highlighted. If I don't have it highlighted, or I'm not in the sketch, when I do select Extrude, it'll ask me to select the sketch. And so I'll put in a distance of 30. And so you see that boss that we've added to the part, and then I'm going to do an extrude cut, and at this time I don't have a sketch to start with, so I'll select this face and I'll draw a circle. So you can either do the sketch before the feature or select the feature and then do the sketch. So I'll scrub this circle. I'm not clicking on it. I'll scrub this circle. The center of that boss comes up. I'll then draw my circle, and we'll go on to the next page and see what the diameter is. The diameter is 15. We'll say OK to that, and then we'll when we finish sketch, we remember we started with the extrude command, so we're in the extrude command, and I'll do through all, and actually I did extrude instead of extrude cut. I must have, no, I did extrude cut. What's going on here? Let me edit that, see if I can figure out what's going on here. That is a strange one. See, I normally do the sketch first, and I'm going to say go through all both directions. And I'm in cut extrude, and I'll say OK. That appears to be a bug in the program to me, because that should have, or is it? Oh, it is. I was just the orientation I was looking at it. It didn't look like it went through. It looked like it was added a solid body there. All right, and then I'll go to the next one, and so we want to add a fillet on this face, this edge, and the hole on the bottom. So I'll do a fillet, and again, this is the first time I've done this tutorial, and so I'm not familiar with the tutorial. The fillet radius will be 2. I'll select this edge and it'll go all the way around there. I'll select this edge and it'll go around there, and I'll rotate around and I'll get that hole, and I'll say okay to that. It might make it a little bit easier if I make those fillets a different color. I'm going to click on this arrow right here. So expand that out a little bit. I'll click on that arrow. I'm going to right click on this fillet, and I'll go to the beach ball appearances, and I'm going to change that fillet color to some other color, and then I will right click here and I'll do copy appearance, and I'll go down to this fillet and I'll do paste that appearance on that fillet as well, to make it easier to see those. Okay, then I'm going to do a circular pattern, and it says to show these temporary axes, so that isn't really necessary, but I'll go ahead and do that. So I'm going to tell it to, I'll click on this down arrow next to this eyeball, I'll tell it to view temporary axes, so I see an axis in the center of that hole. And then underneath linear pattern, I'm going to do a circular pattern, and I'm going to expand this, to click on this little black arrow to expand that, and I want to expand, pattern this boss extrusion, the cut hole in that, and also the fillets for that. And then I want to do that around this axis, and the number of copies that I want are, let's see if I can find the instructions here someplace. Yeah, 6 copies, equally spaced. Okay, so there we go. And for the last feature, we'll do a fillet of 2. So I'll do another fillet, and I'll select this edge. I have tangent propagation turned on, so it goes all the way around that edge, and I'll select this edge, and so it goes all the way around that edge. If I want to make that easier to see, I will copy this appearance and paste it down here. And so that's getting started. I'll turn off the visibility of the temporary axes, and so there is our first part in SolidWorks.